They built 96 houses on my land, not by accident, on purpose. I inherited 47 acres in Colorado from my grandfather, paid off and pristine. Went to visit the property for the first time in 3 years and found an entire subdivision where my forest used to be. Paved roads, streetlights, families moving furniture into houses they'd paid $485,000 each for. The HOA president, a woman who'd never worked an honest day but wore a Rolex like a badge, told me to my face I was a deadbeat squatter trying to scam hardworking families. Said her lawyer confirmed the land was abandoned, so adverse possession made it legally theirs. She'd already deposited $16 million in pre-sales. Here's what I did. Absolutely nothing. Let them finish construction. Watched them landscape, paint, install pools. Then I walked into federal court with my grandfather's original 1971 deed. What would you do if someone built a neighborhood on your property? Drop your state below. Let's see where my land rights family is watching from. My name's Dakota Flint. Yeah, like the stone. 47 years old, structural engineer, divorced. I drive a 2008 Silverado that burns a quart of oil every month. Nothing special about me except one thing. My grandfather left me 47 acres of Colorado forest worth about $4.2 million. William Flint bought that land in 1971 for $8,200 cash. Depression-era guy, kept every receipt in leather ledgers that smelled like pipe tobacco and WD-40. When he died in 2019, he left me the property with one note tucked inside the deed. Don't let the bastards take what's yours. I didn't visit for 3 years. Divorce, 2 kids in college, 70-hour work weeks. But I paid property taxes every April, $6,400 annually, never late, always online. I had the email receipts. August 2022, I finally drove up to scatter Grandpa's ashes, turned off Highway 36 onto the old fire road, and my stomach dropped. The pine forest was gone. In its place, 96 Mediterranean stucco houses with fake balconies and HOA mandated beige paint. A carved stone entrance sign read, Ridgeline Heights, a Whitmore luxury community. I checked my GPS 4 times. Same coordinates. This was my land. At the gatehouse, a security guard stopped me. Residents only. I own this property, I said, holding up my phone with the deed photo. He smirked. Sure, buddy, and I'm Elon Musk. Turn around. Before I could argue, a white Range Rover pulled up. Out stepped Cassandra Whitmore, mid-50s, Botoxed into a permanent look of mild surprise, wearing white linen that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. She had that specific energy of someone who'd never been told no by anyone who mattered. Problem, Ray? She asked the guard, not looking at me. This gentleman claims he owns the development. Cassandra finally turned. Her eyes scanned me, work boots, Carhartt jacket, calloused hands. I watched her mentally file me under poor. How charming, she said. Sweetie, if you're looking for construction work, most crews have filled their labor positions. But I can take your number. I'm not looking for work. I'm the legal owner. My grandfather, William Flint, She pulled out her phone, scrolled with manicured nails. Our title company ran a forensic search. This land was abandoned for over 3 years, which under Colorado Adverse Possession Statute 38-41-101 means nothing if property taxes were paid, I interrupted. Her smile went sharp. That's adorable. You know just enough to be dangerous. She pulled out a business card, held it between 2 fingers like it was contaminated. Brian Kemper, our attorney. He'll explain why your claim is, what's the legal term, frivolous. I took the card. How many houses are sold? All 96. Pre-construction sales totaled $16 million. Families are moving in by Thanksgiving. She said it like a threat. This is a legitimate development, properly permitted through Boulder County. If you continue trespassing, I'll call Sheriff Mitchell personally. We're major contributors to his department's equipment fund. Then she did something that made my blood freeze. She pulled out her phone, snapped my license plate. Just in case you decide to come back and vandalize anything, we have excellent security footage. She leaned closer. And trust me, honey, people like you don't win against people like us. The diesel smell from a nearby excavator mixed with fresh concrete. A nail gun echoed pop, pop, pop like a countdown. I drove home, hands shaking. That night I spread Grandpa's documents across my kitchen table. The 1971 deed, 47 annual tax receipts, survey maps, Cassandra had threatened me, photographed my truck, and implied I was a criminal. She'd also just given me everything I needed to bury her. Monday morning, I called Brian Kemper, Cassandra's attorney. His receptionist had that voice, professionally pleasant in the way dentists are when they're about to tell you that you need a root canal. Mr. Kemper is in depositions all week. Can I take a message? Dakota Flint, about the Ridgeline Heights property. Pause. Oh, yes. Mr. Kemper anticipated your call. He's authorized me to offer a nuisance settlement of $15,000 if you'll sign a quitclaim deed by Friday. $15,000. For $4 million in land. I'd heard about quitclaim deeds from my divorce. That's how my ex got the timeshare in Branson that neither of us wanted. Basically, you're signing away all your rights to something without anyone promising those rights actually exist. It's the legal equivalent of saying, I give up, don't even care if I'm right. My divorce lawyer had told me, never sign one unless you're absolutely sure you're walking away from nothing. Tell Mr. Kemper I'll see him in court, I said, and hung up before she could respond. I needed a real lawyer, not the guy who'd handled my divorce for $2,200. I needed the kind who makes other lawyers check their malpractice insurance. My buddy Marcus, a civil engineer in Cheyenne, gave me one name, Lydia Chen. She'd beaten a railroad company in a Wyoming adverse possession case so badly they'd offered her a job just to make her stop. Her consultation fee was $500. I paid it with a credit card and prayed. Lydia's office smelled like old leather and lemon furniture polish, the kind of smell that costs money to maintain. She was about 60, gray hair in a tight bun, reading glasses on a beaded chain. She listened to my entire story without interrupting, making notes in handwriting so perfect it looked like a font. When I finished, she set down her pen. Show me your tax receipts. I pulled out a folder thick enough to hurt someone. Email confirmations, bank statements, county records, every April payment since 2019, plus copies going back to Grandpa's first payment in 1971. She flipped through them, and I watched her mouth twitch into something that might have been a smile on a less controlled face. Colorado adverse possession requires 18 years of open, continuous, hostile possession, and the squatter has to pay property taxes the entire time. If you've been paying, their claim is stillborn. So I get an injunction? Stop construction? You could. She closed the folder. But here's what I'd do instead, and you're going to think I've lost my mind. Let them finish building. I stared at her. What? If you stop construction now, Cassandra's company declares bankruptcy. Your land gets tied up in a 3-year litigation circus with 96 families who bought homes in good faith suing everyone including you. Banks, title companies, insurance companies. It becomes legal whack-a-mole. She leaned forward. But if you let them finish, then file for declaratory judgment, you own 96 completed houses. Cassandra's company has committed textbook fraud, selling property they don't own. They'll be desperate to settle because the alternative is prison. My hands were shaking. What if they somehow win? They won't. But even in some parallel universe where they did, you've lost nothing. Your land's already occupied. The difference is whether you fight one corrupt developer or 96 traumatized families. It was cold, strategic, brutal, and it made perfect sense. How much, I asked. $40,000 in legal fees, maybe $50,000, but when we win, and we will, the court awards damages for trespass, unjust enrichment, fraud, and attorney's fees. You'll own the houses outright, sell them, rent them, or negotiate a settlement worth millions. I had $12,000 in savings. My Silverado needed a transmission. My daughter's tuition payment was due in January. I'll figure it out, I heard myself say. One last thing. Lydia's voice dropped. Don't contact Cassandra. Don't post on Facebook. Don't tell anyone except your kids and maybe one trusted friend. In property litigation, surprise is worth more than gold. I hired her that day, signed a retainer agreement that made my stomach hurt. September bled into October. I drove past Ridgeline Heights twice a week, parking on the public road with my phone camera running. Framers swarmed like ants. The air smelled like sawdust and diesel fuel. Plumbers hauled coils of PEX tubing. Electricians snaked wire through walls. And every time I visited, I took time-stamped photos. Cassandra spotted me during her 3rd week. She made a phone call. I could see her from 200 yards away, gesturing at my truck like I was a bomb. 20 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up behind me. Deputy Torres, young guy, probably late 20s, with the uncomfortable body language of someone caught between a rock and a campaign donor. "Sir, need to see your license." I handed it over. "I'm on a public road, officer." He walked back to his car, ran my plates, came back looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mrs. Whitmore says you've been harassing her, following her, taking pictures. I'm documenting construction on property I own. Check Boulder County records. Parcel APN 559-32-4008. Owner, Dakota Flint. Torres shifted his weight. Look, if there's a property dispute, that's civil court. But she's filed a formal complaint. If she calls again saying you're threatening her, I'll have to take action. Understand? Translation. She donates to the sheriff's re-election fund. You don't. Understood. He left. I kept taking pictures. By November, the first families moved in. U-Hauls blocking cul-de-sacs, kids on scooters, the smell of pizza delivery mixing with fresh paint. I watched a couple carry a crib into house number 43. Watched another family plant a maple tree in their front yard. And I felt sick. Because these weren't villains. They were people who'd saved for down payments, who believed they were living the American dream. But Cassandra? She was about to learn that stealing costs more than money. Thanksgiving week, Cassandra sent me a certified letter. I signed for it at the post office, and the clerk, a woman named Deb who'd known my grandfather, wrinkled her nose when she saw the return address. Whitmore Development, LLC? That's the lady building those McMansions on Old Mill Road, right? She handed me the envelope. My sister tried to buy one. They wanted $485,000 for 1,800 square feet. Highway robbery. I opened it in my truck. Legal letterhead, Brian Kemper's signature at the bottom, 3 pages of dense legalese that boiled down to, stop trespassing or we'll sue you for harassment. There was a photo attached, my Silverado parked on the public road taken from inside the subdivision. Someone had circled my license plate in red Sharpie. Handwritten in the margin, document everything. I drove straight to Lydia's office. She read the letter, then started laughing. Not the polite kind, but the genuine belly laugh of someone who'd just been handed a gift. They're documenting their own fraud, she said, wiping her eyes. Every letter they send, every photo they take, every interaction, it's evidence that they knew there was a dispute and kept building anyway. This is beautiful. Doesn't feel beautiful, feels like I'm being stalked. You are. But here's what you're going to do. Nothing. Let them waste money on legal threats. Let them generate evidence. We'll file in January, right after the holidays when everyone's distracted. She pulled out a yellow legal pad. Meanwhile, I need you to get me everything about Cassandra Whitmore. Property records, business filings, tax liens, anything public. I want to know who's financing this development. I spent the next 2 weeks becoming an amateur detective. Turns out, when you're an engineer, you know how to read plats, survey maps, and permit applications. I started with Boulder County's online records. Whitmore Development LLC was registered in Delaware, always a red flag. Delaware corporations are like offshore bank accounts for people who want to hide things, with Cassandra as the sole managing member. But the financing came from Ridgeline Capital Group, a Denver-based investment firm. I dug deeper. Ridgeline Capital was owned by 3 partners, and one of them was married to Cassandra. His name was Preston Whitmore, a real estate developer who'd been sued twice for construction defects and once for defrauding investors in a failed resort project. The cases had been settled quietly, records sealed. So this wasn't just Cassandra's scam, it was a family business. I found more. The Boulder County permits listed the land as formerly tax delinquent, acquired via adverse possession claim filed March 2022. But here's the thing about adverse possession. You can't just claim it. You have to prove it in court first, get a judgment, then record that judgment before you can sell property. They'd skipped that step. They'd filed a claim, then immediately started selling lots as if the claim had been granted. That's fraud. Premeditated, documented fraud. I sent everything to Lydia in an encrypted email, because by now I'd learned that developers like the Whitmores have ways of making people's lives difficult. She called me an hour later. Dakota, this is better than I thought. Preston Whitmore has a pattern. If we can prove he knew about your ownership and proceeded anyway, this becomes criminal fraud, not just civil trespass. How do we prove that? Let me worry about that, you just keep your head down. But keeping my head down got harder when Cassandra escalated. December 3rd, I got a call from Boulder County Code Enforcement. A man named Rick Paulson, who sounded tired in the way government workers do when they're handling their 50th complaint of the day. Mr. Flint, we've received a report that you're operating an illegal dumping site on parcel 55932-4008. What? I don't even live there. The complaint says there are piles of construction debris, old vehicles, and possible hazardous waste. I'm required to inspect. If the violations are confirmed, you'll face fines starting at $500 per day. I drove up that afternoon with my phone recording. The property was pristine, well, except for the 96 houses Cassandra had illegally built. No debris, no vehicles, nothing. Rick Paulson met me at the entrance, clipboard in hand. He was about 50, sunburned, wearing a county vest. He walked the perimeter, checked behind the houses, took photos. Finally, he came back shaking his head. There's nothing here. Someone filed a false report. Who filed it? He checked his notes. Anonymous tip, but it came through Mrs. Whitmore's office as a concerned citizen complaint. So she's trying to get me fined for violations that don't exist on land she's currently occupying. Rick looked at me for a long moment. Off the record? I've inspected 6 Whitmore projects. Every single one had complaints filed against neighboring landowners right before construction permits were approved. It's a pattern. He handed me his card. If you need a witness statement, call me. I drove home with that card in my pocket and rage in my chest. Cassandra wasn't just stealing my land. She was trying to bury me in bureaucratic quicksand while she finished construction. But what she didn't know, what nobody knew except Lydia, was that every move she made was digging her grave deeper. By Christmas, 84 houses were occupied. Families hung lights, kids built snowmen, and I had a court date scheduled for January 12th. January 4th, 8 days before my court date, I got a text from my daughter Emma at 11 p.m. Dad, did you get arrested? Someone posted on Facebook that you're harassing families in a neighborhood. It has 300 shares. My stomach dropped. I opened Facebook, which I hadn't used since my divorce, and found the post immediately. It was pinned at the top of the Boulder County Community Watch group, written by Cassandra herself. Alert! Local man Dakota Flint has been stalking our family-friendly Ridgeline Heights community, taking photos of children, making residents feel unsafe. He claims to own our neighborhood despite clear legal title. Boulder County Sheriff's aware. Please report any sightings. Protect your families. The comments were a dumpster fire. People calling me a predator, suggesting I belonged on a registry. Someone posted a photo of my Silverado with the license plate visible, captioned, "This is his truck. Stay safe, everyone." My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. I called Lydia. She answered on the first ring. I saw it. Don't respond. Don't comment. Don't defend yourself. She's calling me a pedophile, Lydia. My daughter's crying. My son called asking if I'm going to jail. I know, and it's defamation, and we're adding it to the lawsuit. But if you engage, you look guilty. Let me handle this. Her voice softened. Dakota, this is what desperate people do. She knows we filed. She knows her attorney's seen your evidence. This is a Hail Mary to discredit you before trial. It's working. I've gotten 12 messages from people I went to high school with asking what's going on. Good. Screenshot everything. Every share, every comment, every message, it's all evidence of malice. I spent the next 3 hours documenting the post's spread. By midnight, it had 847 shares. Someone had created a hashtag #StopDakotaFlint. I didn't sleep. The next morning, my boss called me into his office. Martin's a good guy. Ex-Navy, ran the structural engineering firm where I'd worked for 14 years. He closed the door, which is never a good sign. Dakota, I got a call this morning from a potential client. They Googled our firm and found a situation with your name attached. My chest tightened. The Facebook post. Yeah. He rubbed his face. Look, I know you. You're solid. But this client's a school district and they're nervous about optics. They specifically asked if you'd be on the project. And you told them no. I told them you're on personal leave pending resolution of a legal matter, which, effective today, you are. He pulled out an envelope. Paid leave 2 weeks. If this gets resolved, you're back immediately. If it doesn't... He didn't finish. I took the envelope. Understood. Walking to my truck, I passed Jenny from accounting. She'd always been friendly, brought cookies at Christmas, asked about my kids. She saw me coming and literally crossed to the other side of the parking lot. That's when I understood what Cassandra was doing. She wasn't just attacking my legal claim, she was attacking my life, my reputation, my job, my ability to exist in my own community. I sat in my truck and called Lydia again. They're destroying me, I said. I just got put on leave. People are crossing the street to avoid me. I'm filing an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order against Cassandra. Defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, interference with business relations. We'll have a hearing Monday." She paused. "But Dakota, you need to understand something. This gets worse before it gets better. If you want to walk away, I'll negotiate a settlement. You'll get something, maybe $500,000. You can move, start over." I thought about Grandpa's note. "Don't let the bastards take what's yours." "No," I said. "We finish this. Then buckle up, because they're going to hit harder." She was right. January 7th, someone spray-painted pervert on my garage door. I filed a police report. The responding officer, not Torres, someone older named Patterson, took photos with the enthusiasm of a man filling out a DMV form. "Any idea who did this?" "Check the Facebook post going around, probably someone who believed it." He wrote something down. "We'll increase patrols in your area." That night, I slept with a baseball bat next to my bed. January 9th, 3 days before court, my lawyer Emma called crying. Someone had sent her the Facebook post with a message. "Your dad's a creep, and everyone knows it." I drove to her apartment in Fort Collins. Found her on her couch with her roommate, both looking at me like I might be radioactive. "Dad, just tell me the truth. Are you really stalking people?" I sat down and explained everything. The land, Cassandra, the lawsuit, the houses. Showed her grandpa's deed, the tax receipts, Lydia's court filings. Emma read through them, and I watched her face change from fear to fury. "So she's lying about everything?" "Everything." "Then we need to fight back." "Lydia says we wait for court." Emma shook her head. "Dad, you've been playing defense your whole life. Divorce, work, everything. Just once. Hit first." I didn't respond, but her words stuck. January 11th, the night before court, I got one final message. It was from a number I didn't recognize. "Drop the lawsuit or everyone finds out what you really are." I forwarded it to Lydia. She texted back immediately. "Perfect. Bring your phone to court tomorrow. We're going to bury them." The Boulder County Courthouse smelled like floor wax and recycled air. I met Lydia in the hallway outside Courtroom 3C at 8:45 a.m. She wore a navy suit that probably cost more than my truck, carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it could stop bullets. "You ready?" she asked. I wasn't. My hands were sweating. I'd worn my only suit, the one from my daughter's high school graduation 3 years ago, that now felt too tight in the shoulders. "Do we have enough?" "We have a nuclear bomb. Trust me." She checked her watch. Cassandra's attorney filed a motion to dismiss yesterday at 4:57 p.m. Classic delay tactic. Judge Ramirez hates that. We walked into the courtroom. Cassandra sat at the defendant's table with Brian Kemper and Preston Whitmore, her husband, who I'd only seen in property records. Preston was about 60, gray hair gelled back, wearing a suit that screamed, "I've settled 3 fraud lawsuits." He was whispering to Kemper, both of them looking relaxed. Confident. Cassandra saw me and smiled. Actually smiled, like she'd already won. Judge Angela Ramirez entered, a woman in her 50s with reading glasses and zero patience in her expression. We all stood. "Be seated. Case number 2023 CV 00847, Flint versus Whitmore Development LLC and associated parties." She looked at Kemper. "Counselor, I received your motion to dismiss at 5 p.m. yesterday. You want to explain why you think that's appropriate?" Kemper stood. "Your Honor, the plaintiff's claim is defective on its face. Whitmore Development holds clear title via adverse possession. Mr. Flint abandoned the property for over 3 years. Did he pay property taxes?" Judge Ramirez interrupted. "Well, yes, but..." "Then adverse possession fails under Colorado Statute 3841-101. What else do you have?" I watched Kemper's confidence crack like cheap concrete. "Your Honor, the title company conducted a thorough search." "Ms. Chen?" The judge turned to Lydia. Lydia stood, and I swear the temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. "Your Honor, we're not here to debate adverse possession. That claim is frivolous. We're here because the defendants knowingly committed fraud." She opened her briefcase. "I'd like to submit Exhibit A, an internal email from Preston Whitmore to Cassandra Whitmore dated February 18th, 2022. She handed copies to the judge and Kemper. I craned my neck to see. Kemper's face went white. Judge Ramirez read it, and her eyebrows went up. "Counselor Kemper, did you know about this email?" "Your Honor, I've never seen that document." "It was submitted in discovery last week," Lydia said smoothly. "Perhaps it got lost in your office." What does it say? I whispered. Lydia slid me a copy. I read it, and my heart started pounding. From Preston Whitmore at Ridgeline Capital, Com to C. Whitmore at Whitmore Development. Com subject, Old Mill Road property, risk assessment. Cassie, spoke with our title attorney. The Flint parcel is not abandoned. Owner, William Flint's grandson, has been paying property taxes continuously since 2019. Adverse possession claim won't hold up in court. However, if we move fast, file the AP claim, get permits approved, start selling lots before anyone notices, we can create enough chaos that Flint either settles cheap or gets buried in litigation costs. Worst case, we build everything, file bankruptcy, let the title insurance companies sort it out. We've done this before, Aspen Project 2019. Risk level, medium. Reward level, $16 gross. I read it 3 times. They'd known. From the beginning, they'd known they were stealing my land. Your Honor, Lydia continued, this email proves the defendants engaged in intentional fraud. They knew Mr. Flint owned the property. They knew their adverse possession claim was baseless. They proceeded anyway because they calculated, correctly I might add, that most people can't afford to fight a multi-million-dollar legal battle. Judge Ramirez looked at Preston and Cassandra. Is this email authentic? Preston started to stand, but Kemper grabbed his arm. Your Honor, we need to consult with our clients. That sounds like a yes. The judge closed the folder. Here's what's going to happen. Motion to dismiss is denied. This case is proceeding to trial, expedited schedule. In the meantime, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order. Whitmore Development will cease all sales, marketing, and transfer of property related to Ridgeline Heights pending resolution. She looked at Cassandra. And Mrs. Whitmore, if I see one more Facebook post, one more anonymous tip to code enforcement, or one more threat directed at Mr. Flint, I will hold you in contempt. Are we clear? Cassandra's face had gone from confident to ashen. Yes, Your Honor, she whispered. Walking out of the courthouse, Lydia turned to me. That email? I got it from a whistleblower. One of Preston's former business partners who got screwed in the Aspen deal. He's been waiting 5 years for revenge. How did you find him? She smiled. I'm very good at my job. For the first time in 4 months, I felt like I could breathe. That night, I bought a bottle of whiskey I couldn't afford and sat on my back porch watching snowfall. My phone buzzed every 5 minutes. Emma, my son Tyler, Marcus from Wyoming, even my ex-wife Jennifer sending a cautious, heard you had a good day in court. But the message that mattered came from Lydia at 9:47 p.m. My office, tomorrow 10 a.m., bring coffee. We're building the kill shot. I showed up at 9:30 with 2 large coffees and a box of donuts that seemed appropriate for planning someone's legal destruction. Lydia's conference room had a whiteboard covering one entire wall, already half filled with dates, names, and colored arrows connecting them like a conspiracy theory map. You brought donuts. She grabbed a glazed one. I like you more now. What's all this? This, she said, tapping the board with a marker, is how we turn your property dispute into a criminal referral. She drew a circle around Preston's name. The email was the grenade. Now we're bringing the artillery. She'd spent the previous evening with her paralegal tracking down every project the Whitmores had touched in the last decade. There were 7, all in Colorado mountain towns, all following the same pattern. Find land with unclear title or elderly owners, file aggressive claims, build fast, sell faster, let insurance companies clean up the mess. They're not developers, Lydia said. They're land pirates with LLCs. But here's what made my case different. I had documentation. Grandpa's meticulous records going back to 1971. Every timber sale, every fence repair, every property tax payment logged in those tobacco-scented ledgers. My own tax receipts, survey maps, photographs with GPS timestamps. Most of their victims were old. I didn't know what to say. I'm not trying to take your house. I'm trying to stop the people who stole from both of us. But what happens if you win? Do we get evicted? No. You'll own your home. The developer will pay for it. And if they can't? I had no answer for that. That night, Lydia called with news. Channel 9 wants to interview you. Patricia Hughes, the investigative reporter, she's doing a segment on predatory land developers. It airs February 2nd, 1 week before trial. What do I say? The truth, that you're fighting for your grandfather's legacy, that you're not the enemy, the Whitmores are, and that every family in Ridgeline Heights deserves to keep their home. I thought about Sarah Chen's voice breaking on the phone. "Set it up," I said. The Channel 9 interview was scheduled for January 30th at my house. Patricia Hughes arrived at 2 p.m. with a cameraman named Steve and enough lighting equipment to film a Marvel movie. Patricia was mid-40s, gray-streaked hair and a practical ponytail, wearing jeans and a blazer that said, "I'm professional, but I've climbed through dumpsters for a story." She shook my hand. "Mr. Flint, I've been covering real estate fraud for 12 years. Your case is the most brazen thing I've ever seen." We sat in my living room, which I'd frantically cleaned that morning, shoving dirty laundry into closets like a teenager before prom. Steve positioned lights while Patricia reviewed her notes. "I'm going to ask about your grandfather, the property, and what happened when you discovered the development. Just talk to me, not the camera. We'll edit later." The interview lasted 90 minutes. I told her everything. Grandpa's ledgers, Cassandra's contempt, the Facebook smear campaign, Preston's email, the families caught in the middle. Patricia's questions were sharp but fair. She made me feel like I was talking to a friend, not performing for an audience. At the end, she turned off the camera. Off the record, I contacted Cassandra Whitmore for comment. She threatened to sue me for defamation if we air this. "Will you still run it?" Patricia smiled. "Absolutely. Threats mean I'm onto something." The segment aired February 2nd at 6 p.m. I watched it alone in my living room with a beer I was too nervous to drink. Patricia's voiceover began. "He inherited the American dream, 47 acres of Colorado forest. But when Dakota Flint visited his land for the first time in 3 years, he found a nightmare instead." They showed aerial footage of Ridgeline Heights, then my interview, intercut with shots of Grandpa's deed, the tax receipts, and Preston's smoking gun email. Patricia had obtained county permit records showing the Whitmores had fast-tracked approvals by donating $50,000 to the county commissioner's re-election fund. The piece ended with me saying, "I'm not trying to hurt the families who bought these homes. They're victims too. But if we let people like the Whitmores get away with this, what's the point of property rights? What's the point of laws?" My phone exploded before the segment even finished. Emma called, crying, proud tears this time. Marcus texted, "You just became a folk hero." Even my boss Martin sent an email. "Come back to work Monday, we're proud to have you." But the message that mattered came at 7:15 p.m. from a blocked number. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." I forwarded it to Lydia. She called back immediately. "Don't go anywhere alone. Vary your routes. Keep your doors locked." You think they'd actually... I think they're looking at 10 years in federal prison and financial ruin. People do stupid things when they're cornered. She was right to worry. February 4th, 2 days after the broadcast, I came home from grocery shopping to find my front door ajar. I'd locked it, I was certain. I stood on the porch, heart hammering, and called 911. Deputy Torres arrived first this time with backup. They cleared the house room by room. Nothing was stolen. But someone had been inside. On my kitchen table sat a single sheet of paper with 5 words printed in block letters: "Drop it or lose everything." Torres bagged it as evidence. "We'll check for prints, but if they were smart, they wore gloves." "This is the Whitmores," I said. "They broke into my house." "Can you prove that?" I couldn't. But 2 hours later, my neighbor Carol knocked on my door. She was 70, a retired librarian who'd lived on my street for 40 years and noticed everything. "Dakota, I saw a black Audi SUV parked across the street yesterday around noon. Man in a suit got out, walked up your driveway, then came back 10 minutes later. I thought he was a salesman." "Did you see his face?" "No, but I got the license plate. Seemed odd, so I wrote it down." She handed me a sticky note with Colorado plate number, KLM 4892. I gave it to Torres. He ran it. The vehicle was registered to Apex Investigations, Thomas Brennan's company. "That's the PI who harassed my son," I said. Torres looked uncomfortable. "Breaking and entering is a felony, but proving he did it versus just walking up to your door is tough without video." "So they just get away with it?" "I'll file a report. Detective will follow up. But Mr. Flint? You should consider staying somewhere else until this is over." I spent that night at Emma's apartment in Fort Collins. Slept on her couch with my phone charging next to me and the baseball bat leaning against the wall. February 6th, 3 days before trial, Lydia called with an update. "The title company flipped. Rocky Mountain Title is cooperating with our investigation. They're admitting they knew the adverse possession claim was shaky but approved it anyway because Preston paid them $45,000 under the table. They're giving us everything: emails, payment records, recorded phone calls. So we have them. We have them. But Dakota? Cassandra knows it too. Her attorney called this morning begging for a settlement conference. What did you say? I said we'll see them in court. The silence on the line felt heavy. 3 more days, Lydia said. Stay safe, stay quiet, and get ready to watch everything burn. I hung up and stared out Emma's apartment window at the snow falling on Fort Collins. Somewhere out there, Cassandra and Preston were planning their last desperate move. I just hoped I'd see it coming. February 9th, trial day. I put on the same suit I'd worn to the first hearing, still too tight in the shoulders, and drove to Boulder with Emma riding shotgun. She'd insisted on coming, said I needed family there. Tyler had wanted to come too, but he couldn't afford to miss work. Not after the PI incident nearly cost him his job. The courthouse parking lot was chaos. 2 news vans, Channel 9 and a local Boulder station, had cameras set up on the steps. Patricia Hughes spotted me and waved, but I kept my head down. Lydia had been clear. No media comments before trial. Inside, courtroom 3C was packed. All 96 families from Ridgeline Heights had received notices about the trial, and at least 40 of them had shown up. I recognized Sarah Chen sitting 3 rows back, the woman who'd called me crying about her forever home. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read, hope maybe, or terror that she'd lose everything. Cassandra and Preston sat at the defense table with their attorneys, Brian Kemper and Diane Kelso, plus 2 more lawyers I didn't recognize. They'd brought in reinforcements. Cassandra wore a cream-colored suit that probably cost $5,000. Her face was perfectly composed, but I could see her hands shaking when she reached for her water glass. Judge Ramirez entered. We all stood. Before we begin, the judge said, looking over her reading glasses at the packed gallery, I want to make something clear. This is a court of law, not a circus. Anyone who disrupts proceedings will be removed. Understood? Murmurs of agreement. Ms. Chen, opening statement. Lydia stood, and the room went silent. She didn't need a microphone. Her voice carried like thunder across water. Your Honor, this case is about theft. Not the kind that happens in dark alleys with masks and guns, but the kind that happens in boardrooms with LLCs and forged documents. Dakota Flint inherited 47 acres from his grandfather, a man who paid cash for that land in 1971 and meticulously maintained it for 48 years. When Mr. Flint couldn't visit for 3 years due to work and family obligations, the defendant saw an opportunity. She walked toward the jury box. This was a bench trial, no jury, but old habits die hard. They didn't just build on his land, they planned it, they researched. The order gave me full title to all 47 acres, including the 96 houses. It awarded me $4.2 million in damages for trespass, emotional distress, and loss of use. It required the Whitmores to pay Lydia's legal fees, $73,000. And it referred the case to the U.S. Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. Cassandra and Preston were done. Ridgeline Capital dissolved within a week. Their personal assets, the Range Rover, the Aspen vacation home, Cassandra's jewelry collection, went to auction to pay creditors. Preston was indicted on 6 federal fraud charges. Cassandra took a plea deal, 3 years probation, $500,000 restitution, and a lifetime ban from Colorado real estate development. The title company lost its license. Brian Kemper resigned from his law firm to avoid disbarment. But the ruling created a new problem. What to do with 96 families who'd bought homes on my land? I could have forced them out, sold the houses myself, pocketed another $16 million. That's what the law allowed. That's what a lot of people expected. Instead, I called a town hall meeting at Ridgeline Heights on March 15th. All 96 families showed up, cramming into the unfinished clubhouse that Cassandra had promised but never built. Sarah Chen stood in front, holding her daughter's hand. An elderly couple named the Rodriguezes sat near the back, looking terrified. These weren't villains. They were teachers, nurses, electricians, people who'd saved for years to buy a piece of the American dream. I stood at the front with Lydia beside me. I know you're scared, I started. You bought homes in good faith. You did nothing wrong, and I'm not here to punish you for someone else's crime. The room was silent enough to hear snow melting on the roof. Here's what I'm proposing. I'm transferring ownership of all 96 homes to the Ridgeline Heights Community Trust, a nonprofit we're establishing today. Each family will own their home through the trust at the price you originally paid. No mortgages, no interest, just what you've already invested. If you've paid $485,000, you owe nothing more. If you still have payments left, you finish them to the trust at 0 interest. Someone gasped. Sarah Chen started crying. The trust will use those funds to maintain roads, cover property taxes, and establish a scholarship fund for kids in this community. My grandfather believed land was about legacy, not profit. This is his legacy. The applause started slowly, then built like a thunderstorm. People were hugging, crying, shouting thank yous across the room. An elderly man, Mr. Rodriguez, walked up and shook my hand so hard I thought my shoulder would dislocate. "You're a good man," he said. "Your grandfather raised you right." The scholarship fund launched in September. The William Flint Memorial Scholarship, $10,000 annually for a Colorado student studying engineering, forestry, or environmental science. Emma helped me set it up. Said Grandpa would have loved that his ledgers full of timber sale records were now funding someone's education. I kept 5 acres for myself at the north end of the property, the part with the old-growth pines Grandpa had refused to log. Built a small cabin there, 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy. Sold my house in town and moved in last October. Wake up every morning to the smell of pine and coffee, watch deer graze outside my window. Tyler visits on weekends. Emma brings her boyfriend, a law student naturally. Even Jennifer, my ex-wife, came by once with her new husband, said she was proud of me. That felt strange, but good. Patricia Hughes did a follow-up story in December, From Property Theft to Community Triumph, How One Man Turned Injustice into Justice. It won her 3rd Emmy. Last week, Sarah Chen's daughter drew me a picture, a crayon house with a stick figure labeled Mr. Dakota holding a giant deed. It's on my fridge now, held up by a magnet shaped like Colorado. I think about Grandpa's note sometimes. Don't let the bastards take what's yours. He was right, but what's mine isn't just land or money. It's knowing that 96 families sleep safely because I didn't quit. It's a scholarship that'll help some kid who reminds me of myself, broke, stubborn, just trying to build something. It's justice. The real kind. The kind that heals. So here's my question for you. Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, a property dispute, someone who thought they could steamroll you because they had money and you didn't? Drop your story in the comments. Let's build a library of how regular people beat corrupt systems. And if this story mattered to you, if it reminded you that good people can still win, hit that subscribe button. Because I've got more stories like this. Stories about the little guy outsmarting the machine. Stories with receipts. Next week, City Council denied my business permit, so I found the bylaw that made me untouchable. See you then. And remember, keep your receipts, all of them.